I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, and you probably wouldn't be able to tell that about me because there's nothing funny about me except for my face. But because I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, I like listening to it, I like watching it, I love reading about it and learning the history of it. I recently watched Marc Maron's Thinky on Netflix. Hello, Grant. That's what I want to talk to you about today, is that newest special. If you are a fan of stand-up comedy, you should be listening to the podcast WTF, hosted by Marc Maron, where he goes around and interviews comedians and understands the history of it, how they came into comedy, their journey through comedy, what they're going to go off to next. He said a lot of the big heavyweights in the comedy industry today, and some of the older generation as well. This special I really appreciate because it takes a lot of what I love about that podcast, the conversational style, like I'm just sitting in and listening to a great talk between two friends, even if they're not friends, kind of brought over 90 minutes. It starts off with him backstage talking to one of his good friends, Tom Sharplane. Then he goes out onto the stage and actually gives his performance, and then it ends him by going backstage and continuing that conversation with his friend. And it's great. So again, if you're a fan of the podcast, you've heard some of these stories before, but it's interesting to see it in front of an audience and seeing where those laugh breaks come and where the silences come. It's always great to see a really honed performer apply their craft and see how they work a crowd and how they interact with the room itself. And Marc Maron has been doing this for like 25 years, so I mean, he has to be somewhat of a master at this point. Though that is something that hampers it as well. I don't know. I sometimes wish I hadn't heard like the evolution of the show in some ways, because some of these stories I heard through successive podcasts of him honing his material, and now I'm seeing it live. So that somewhat hindered me, but not to any great extent. I think that he kind of steals a little bit out of the Bill Cosby playbook, because he sits for most of it. It's a stand-up comedy set, and he's sitting on a stool for a lot of it, and then getting up and interacting with the crowd when appropriate, without like devolving into like just rehashing what his jokes actually are, which would not be fun for either of us. I would probably give this whole entire special a 4 out of 5. It's really good, very good in fact. It's something that I'll probably be able to like put on in the background and still do work and enjoy it, which is what every performer wants. Yeah, I'll listen to your stuff in the background. I'm not really listening to it because I don't value you as a person or as an entity. Not true at all. I like you, Marc Maron. You made a good special. Grant, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Down in the description below, there's going to be some links so that you can go and subscribe to the podcast if you're not Grant. You can also see a link over to see the Netflix special if you so choose.